Imagine you walk into a house and there is not a single live rodent inside. There are no traps you can see, no chemical poisons, no electronic devices, no exterminator stations, no bait blocks tucked into the corners, just clean, dry, mouse-free space. There is a box that contains 20 distinct methods used by an Amish family for 190 plus years to get rid of rodent pests instantly for good, using only the household items they already owned and the natural materials they could gather from the property. And in this video, we are going to go through them one at a time. The total annual cost of running all 20 methods on a working farm is approximately $0 to $5. None of them use chemical poisons that linger in the food chain or harm pets and wildlife. The wooden box belongs to a man named Levi Yoder, whose family has farmed the same 180 acres of LaGrange County, Indiana, land continuously since 1828. The methods inside the box were systematized by his grandfather, Reuben Yoder, in the 1940s and 1950s. After Reuben spent over 20 years testing every traditional rodent control method he could learn from older Amish neighbors, from Mennonite farmers across northern Indiana, and from agricultural extension publications going back to the 1860s. Welcome back to Forgotten Home Science, where we dig up the engineering, the chemistry, and the practical knowledge the textbooks stopped teaching. I drove out to that barn last fall. Shipshewana, Indiana, sits about 30 miles south of the Michigan state line, in the heart of LaGrange County, which is the third largest contiguous Old Order Amish settlement in North America. The county is home to roughly 40,000 Plain community members, and the family farms scattered across the gravel roads west of Shipshewana have been operating largely without commercial pest control services since the time of the American Civil War. Levi Yoder walked me out to the barn on the second morning of my visit. The temperature was about 45 degrees and the ground was wet from overnight rain. The barn dates to 1836. The original hand-cut timber frame is still standing on its original stone sills. Inside, the building was completely free of mouse droppings, gnaw marks on stored materials, and the distinctive sour ammonia smell of an active rodent population. Levi pulled the wooden box off a shelf above the workbench. The container was about the size of a shoebox, hand-built from oak by Levi's grandfather sometime in the late 1940s. Inside were 20 handwritten index cards, each describing one specific method for killing rodent pests instantly, using only materials that any farm family already had on hand. The story of how Reuben Yoder ended up systematizing the 20 methods is the part that explains why the box exists at all. In the spring of 1938, Reuben Yoder was a 28-year-old farmer with 3 young children and a barn that had a serious rat problem. The rats were eating into his stored seed corn faster than the family could replace it. Reuben had tried snap traps. He had tried borrowed traps from neighbors. He had tried opening the barn at night and chasing the rats out with a broom. Nothing was working at the scale required. A neighbor named Eli Bontrager came over one afternoon to help Reuben repair a section of damaged silo. While they were eating lunch, Eli mentioned that his grandfather had killed an entire warren of rats years before using nothing but plaster of Paris from the local hardware store mixed with cornmeal from the family kitchen. The rats had eaten the mixture, the plaster had set in their stomachs, and the entire population had died within 48 hours. Reuben was skeptical, but also desperate. He tried the method that same week. Within 3 days, every active rat sign in the barn had stopped. Reuben spent the next 22 years collecting and testing every traditional rodent control method he could learn. Each method got recorded on an index card, along with the date of his first successful test, the materials required, and any modifications he developed to improve effectiveness. The 20 methods in the box are the ones that survived his testing process. The methods he tried and discarded are not in the box. The system Reuben built is the field-tested distillation of every cheap, effective rodent control technique that pre-industrial American farming culture had ever developed. Reuben Yoder died in 1982 at the age of 73. His grandson Levi has been adding occasional notes to the original cards since the late 1990s, but the core 20 methods have not changed since Reuben finalized them in 1960. Let me walk you through everyone. Method number 1 is the bucket roller trap. You take a 5-gallon plastic bucket, the kind you can pick up free from any restaurant or hardware store dumpster. Drill 2 holes through the rim of the bucket at opposite sides. Run a piece of stiff wire, about a coat hanger thickness, through both holes. Slide an empty soda can or tin can onto the wire so the can spins freely. Coat the can with peanut butter or any sticky food smell. Lean a wooden plank from the floor up to the rim. The mouse walks up the plank, jumps onto the can to reach the peanut butter. The can spins under its weight and the mouse falls into the bucket. Add about 3 inches of water at the bottom of the bucket, which drowns the mouse within about 90 seconds. Method number 2 is the walk the plank variation. The same 5-gallon bucket sits against a wall. A rigid wooden plank, about 4 inches wide and 12 to 16 inches long, balances horizontally on top of the bucket rim, with about 3/4 of its length extended out over the bucket. Peanut butter, or another food bait, is placed on the extended end of the plank. The plank is balanced precisely enough that the weight of a mouse, walking out toward the bait, tips the plank, dropping the mouse into the bucket. The plank then rocks back into the horizontal position automatically, ready for the next mouse. A single setup can catch 5 to 10 mice in a single night without any reset. Method number 3 is the counter edge tipping cup. Take a paper or thin plastic cup, place peanut butter inside the bottom of the cup, and balance the cup horizontally on the edge of a kitchen counter or workbench. A 5-gallon bucket sits on the floor directly below the counter edge. The mouse jumps into the cup to reach the peanut butter. The cup tips off the counter under the mouse's weight, and both fall into the bucket below. This method works particularly well in kitchens where mice are following established travel routes along countertops. Total cost is $0 if you already own a cup and a bucket. Method number 4 is the spinning bottle trap. Same 5-gallon bucket setup as method 1, but instead of a tin can on a wire, you use a 2-liter plastic soda bottle. Drill a hole through each end of the bottle, run the wire through both holes, and coat the outside of the bottle with peanut butter. The bottle spins more freely than a tin can, which catches even cautious mice that have learned to avoid less sensitive triggers. The spin response is also more reliable in cold temperatures where plastic stays slippery longer than metal. Method number 5 is the soap water surface tension trap. This works with any of the bucket setups above, but the modification is critical. Add about 1 teaspoon of liquid dish soap to the water at the bottom of the bucket. The soap breaks the surface tension of the water, which means the mouse cannot float on the surface long enough to climb back out. Without the soap, a healthy mouse can sometimes swim and scramble its way out of a shallow bucket. With the soap, the mouse sinks within seconds and drowns within about 30 seconds. Now here is the part that should stop you cold. The first 5 methods are essentially zero-cost variations of the same basic principle, which is gravity-assisted drowning. The principle was first systematically documented in American agricultural literature in 1868 in a USDA Department of Agriculture report titled Practical Methods of Rat Control on the American Farm. The report was distributed to county extension offices across all 37 states in the Union at the time. The bucket roller trap, as currently practiced, has been in continuous documented American use for over 157 years. Reuben Yoder did not invent it. He just preserved the knowledge after the modern pest control industry made it commercially inconvenient to teach. Method number 6 is the heavy book deadfall trap, the simplest physical kill trap ever developed. Place a heavy book, dictionary, encyclopedia, or large hardcover propped up on one edge with a short stick. place peanut butter or bait on the floor directly under the propped edge of the book. Attach a thin thread to the bait stick. When the mouse takes the bait, the stick pulls free, and the book drops on the mouse instantly. The kill is immediate. Total cost is $0 if you already own a book and a stick. Method number 7 is the glass bowl coin trigger trap. Documented in American household manuals as early as 1843. Place a clear glass mixing bowl upside down on a flat surface. Propped up on one edge by a coin set on its edge, place bait under the bowl with a thin wire or thread attached to the coin. The mouse takes the bait, the coin tips over, and the bowl falls down, trapping or crushing the mouse. The clear bowl lets you confirm the catch before approaching the trap. Method number 8 is the mason jar inverted lid trap. Take a wide-mouth glass mason jar, place bait inside the bottom, and prop the jar at a 30-degree angle on the edge of a table with the mouth, facing slightly downward. When the mouse climbs into the jar to reach the bait, the weight shifts the jar's center of gravity, and the jar falls off the table with the mouse trapped inside. The mouse cannot climb back out of the smooth glass interior, and the jar lands mouth down, holding the mouse against the floor until you dispatch it manually. Method number 9 is the cotton ball snap trap modification. Standard snap traps work fine for killing mice, but the bait stealing problem reduces their effectiveness significantly. Reuben Yoder's solution was to replace the food bait with a single cotton ball wedged firmly under the trigger plate. Mice gather cotton, paper, and other soft materials for nest building. The cotton ball is a stronger draw for nesting females than peanut butter, and it cannot be easily stolen because it is wedged in place. The trigger fires when the mouse pulls hard enough to extract the cotton. Method number 10 is the hot glue reinforced snap trap. Another modification to standard snap traps. Place a small amount of peanut butter on the trigger plate, then secure it in place with a single drop of hot glue from a glue gun. The hot glue prevents bait stealing entirely. The mouse cannot simply lick or grab the peanut butter and run. The mouse has to pull hard enough to break the hot glue bond, which triggers the trap. Effectiveness rate jumps from about 30% to over 80% with this single modification. And this is where it gets bad. Or at least, this is where the methods become harder to think about, for people who would prefer their pest control to be invisible. Method number 11 is the plaster of Paris and cornmeal mixture. Mix dry plaster of Paris with dry cornmeal at a ratio of 1 part plaster to 1 part cornmeal by volume. Place small piles of the mixture in shallow saucers wherever rodent activity has been observed. Place a saucer of fresh drinking water about 2 to 3 feet away from each pile of mixture. The mice will eat the mixture, drink the water, and the plaster of Paris will set into a hard mass inside their digestive tracts within about 2 to 4 hours. The kill is fast, and the residue does not pass into the food chain because the dead mice are physically blocked rather than chemically poisoned. Method number 12 is the cement powder and corn flour mixture. Same principle as plaster of Paris, but using Portland cement powder mixed with finely ground corn flour. The Portland cement hardens through a different chemical pathway involving calcium silicate hydrate formation, which is the same reaction that gives modern concrete its strength. The kill is slightly slower than plaster of Paris, typically 4 to 6 hours, but the materials are often more readily available on farms that have ongoing construction projects. Method number 13 is instant mashed potato flakes. Dry instant mashed potato flakes from any grocery store work as a complete standalone bait. Mice eat the flakes readily because of the salt and starch content. Inside the mouse's stomach, the dehydrated flakes absorb stomach fluid and expand rapidly. The expansion causes acute digestive blockage that the mouse cannot pass. The kill takes about 6 to 8 hours and is most effective when paired with a water source nearby that accelerates the rehydration and expansion process. Method number 14 is the baking soda and cornmeal mixture. Mix sodium bicarbonate, which is the chemistry term for baking soda, with cornmeal at a ratio of 1 part baking soda to 1 part cornmeal. Place small piles in shallow containers near rodent activity. The mouse eats the mixture, and the baking soda reacts with the natural hydrochloric acid in the mouse's stomach to produce carbon dioxide gas. Mice cannot belch or pass gas the way larger mammals can. The gas builds up in the digestive system until the internal pressure becomes lethal. The kill takes about 3 to 4 hours. Method number 15 is the quick-set concrete and sugar mixture, a faster-acting variation of method 12, using quick-set concrete powder mixed with white sugar at a ratio of 1 part concrete to 3 parts. Sugar. The sugar masks the taste of the concrete and accelerates consumption. The faster the mouse eats and drinks, the faster the concrete hardens in the digestive tract. Effective kill time is about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Method number 16 is the wire hanger lever trap. Take a standard wire coat hanger, straighten it out, and bend one end into a U shape that fits across the rim of a 5-gallon bucket. The other end of the wire extends out over the bucket interior, with a small platform attached at the far end. Place bait on the platform. When the mouse climbs out onto the platform, the wire pivots under the weight, and the mouse falls into the water below. This variation works well when you cannot drill holes in the bucket rim for the traditional roller setup. Method number 17 is the working farm cat. A properly raised barn cat from working breeding stock can clear a property of mice within a few weeks and maintain the population at near zero indefinitely. Most county animal shelters across the United States adopt out cats specifically as barn cats for free or for nominal fees of about $20. The cat needs to be from working lines rather than show lines, slightly underfed compared to an indoor pet, and given access to barn space for shelter. Annual cost after adoption is about $50 in food and basic veterinary care. Method number 18 is the working terrier. Jack Russell Terriers, Patterdale Terriers, and Rat Terriers were specifically bred over centuries for rodent control. A well-bred working terrier with active hunting drive will clear a barn or property of rodents within a month and maintain the population at near zero indefinitely. Like the working cat, the dog must come from working lines rather than show lines. Annual cost after adoption is about $200 in food and basic veterinary care, which is still significantly less than a single year of commercial pest control service. Method number 19 is the owl box installation. A single barn owl eats roughly 1,200 mice per year. A barred owl eats slightly fewer but covers a larger territory. Most State Department of Natural Resources offices provide free building plans for owl boxes, and the construction materials can be salvaged from scrap lumber. Mount the box 15 feet up on a tree or post at the edge of your property. Once a breeding pair establishes residence, the owl family becomes a permanent biological mouse control system that costs nothing to operate and asks nothing in return. Method number 20 is the black walnut hull soak. Collect fallen black walnut hulls in late summer or early autumn from any black walnut tree scientifically known as Juglans nigra, which grows wild across the eastern half of the United States. Soak the green hulls in a 5-gallon bucket of water for about 2 weeks. The water turns dark brown as the hulls release a compound called juglone, which is naturally toxic to mice and most other small rodents while being safe for humans, dogs, cats, and most other mammals. Pour the juglone water into shallow dishes near rodent activity. Mice that drink the water die within about 6 hours from juglone toxicity. 20 methods, every one of them documented in either Reuben Yoder's notebook, the USDA Extension Service publications from the late 1800s, or the standard nursing reference texts used in plain community households across the American Midwest. Every one of them using materials you either already own or can acquire for free from your local environment. Every one of them killing rodents either instantly or within a few hours, without using a single chemical poison sold by the modern pest control industry. The reason most American homeowners do not know any of this is that the modern residential pest control industry generates roughly $26 billion in annual revenue, and almost every dollar of that revenue depends on selling repeat applications of chemical products to homeowners who do not realize that 20 effective alternatives have been quietly available for over a century. The National Pest Management Association, founded in 1933, has spent 93 years pushing licensed chemical application protocols as the only legitimate approach to residential rodent control. The Cooperative Extension Service, which used to teach methods like the bucket roller and the plaster cornmeal mixture as stand farm practice through the 1940s, gradually shifted its educational focus toward chemical methods between 1950 and 1970. The Environmental Protection Agency, established in 1970, regulated the chemical products but did not actively promote any of the traditional alternatives. By 1985, the lime perimeter dust, the bucket roller trap, the plaster of Paris kill, and the working barn cat had been pushed completely off the radar of mainstream American consumer pest control awareness. I would love to hear from you in the comments about which of these 20 methods you are going to try first. Drop your situation in the comments and tell me which method you are starting with. If you learned something from this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss videos like this when we post them. The next video covers the specific compound that the United States Department of Agriculture removed from its recommended farm pest control protocols in 1968, and the 7-word phrase in the 1965 Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act that gave the chemical industry legal cover to push every traditional method off the official list. 2 of the men who wrote that phrase later became founding executives of the largest pest control franchise in the United States. The full paper trail became public in 2018 through a Freedom of Information Act release. I will see you in that one.